Hey guys, how are you? It is John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur. It's great to be with you on Inspirations for Your Life. Today is Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. And we're doing the show in the evening. Like I said, it's been crazy the last few days, been busy with all kinds of stuff going on. But welcome to the show, everyone. You know, our master topic is an amazing one, and that is Speak to Be Heard as a master topic. And the granular topic for today or this evening is Avoid Misunderstandings, Series 4, Show 17, Episode number 5. So let's kick this off. Again, I do invite you to check out BelieveMeAchieve.com, of course, for more of my amazing, inspiring creations, which I know that you are definitely going to want to check out. So what are you waiting for? Definitely check that out because I think you will find it to be, let's say, very, very interesting, everyone. All right. That is BelieveMeAchieve.com. And again, there's short form content, there's long form content, there's all kinds of stuff that you can check out there at that link, and you could do it 24 hours a day. All right. If you're hungry, well, feel free to rush over to the kitchen and get yourself something to eat. Don't want you to be starved here, or maybe something to quench your thirst, like some water, could be soda, something sweet, something salty, tart or not, healthy or not, totally up to you. I am your host, John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. You know, it's always such a privilege and, of course, a pleasure to be with you guys on Inspirations for Your Life. So I do want to thank you guys very much for being with me here once again. Thank you. Thank you. More than words could ever convey. All right, guys. So let's kick off this show. All right. As I said, welcome back to everyone. Today's episode will zero in on something that affects all of us, whether it's in friendships, relationships, or leadership. That's misunderstandings. You see, miscommunication doesn't just create awkward moments. No, it can damage trust. It can weaken productivity. It even destroy relationships when left unchecked. But here's the powerful truth. Misunderstandings are preventable. When you understand why they happen and how to communicate better, you become a stronger leader, partner, and person. So grab your coffee, your journal, or just your curiosity, and let's just dive into 10 transformational insights on how to avoid misunderstandings and communicate like a pro. Are you ready? Is everybody ready? I hope you guys are ready. Um, I think it's important to understand, you know, how important it is to know the rules. So, first one is cause of misunderstandings. Misunderstandings stem from a wide range of causes, many of which go unnoticed. Sometimes it's as simple as poor word choices or incomplete information. Other times, emotions, cultural context, or even fatigue play a major role in how people, that is, are around and how things are interpreted in what they hear because what they expect to hear might be different, not necessarily what was said. And so the tone, the timing, and the setting can skew the delivery and reception of a message. Add digital communication like texting or emailing, where body language and tone are absent. Now we've got more complications, and it becomes even easier for messages to go off the rails and become misunderstood. Understanding these root causes helps you become more proactive, giving you the chance to reframe messages before confusion arises. Now, number two, how the brain fills in the gaps. Yes, how the brain fills in the gaps. I think that's a very, very important one. I think it's one that a lot of us miss because we don't actually understand what it means to be filling in the gaps. All right. So the human brain is a powerful pattern detecting machine, but it can sometimes work against us. When we're presented with partial information, our brains fill in the blanks with details based on past experiences, emotions, and biases. While the mechanism helps us make quick decisions, it can also lead to assumptions, which are often incorrect. For example, if someone pauses before responding to a text, your brain may assume they're upset when in reality they were simply distracted. Being aware of this mental shortcut encourages you to seek clarity instead of letting your imagination take over. Slow down and ask before you fill in the blank. Your relationships will thank you for it. So just take that breath, all right? You'll thank me as well. Number three, importance of clarifying questions. Importance of clarifying questions. This is something I wish everyone would know, but I think a lot of people, again, get stuck with this whole premise of, what do I do, right? What do I do? So let's take a gander at that, shall we? Clarifying questions is basically a secret weapon in effective communication. They prevent you from making inaccurate assumptions and show the other person that you care about getting it right. Asking questions like, can you give me an example? Or just to be clear, do you mean? Can change the entire course of a conversation. Instead of appearing ignorant, asking clarifying questions makes you appear thoughtful and engaged. It also encourages mutual understanding, which reduces tension and boosts collaboration. In both personal and professional settings, it's better to ask now than to correct a mistake later. Number four, active listening techniques. This is one that a lot of people sometimes go awry on, and maybe you don't know why, but it can get people upset. All right. Active listening techniques. Active listening is about being fully present in a conversation at the given moment. It's not just hearing the words, it's paying attention to tone, body language, and what's being said and not said. Very important. Some techniques to become a better active listener include maintaining eye contact, all right, nodding to show understanding, and paraphrasing what the speaker said to confirm you got it right. Avoid interpreting and don't plan your response while the other person is still talking. Instead, focus entirely on their message. When people feel heard, they feel respected. And that kind of energy fosters trust, minimizes conflict, and encourages open communication. I think this is something that, again, a lot of people miss and they fall short on because they don't quite understand how it's supposed to work, right? They don't understand how it's supposed to work. And I think that could be something to hopefully get you to understand maybe a little bit more of, what I'm talking about. And hopefully when you do that and you understand the fact that, people, right? In conversations. And again, people realize that, they feel this sense of trust. It minimizes conflict and encourages open communication. Now, number five, guys, is nonverbal communication cues. I love this, right? You remember the rule we talked about just the other day? What was it? The 7:35:58 rule or something like that. Do you remember that rule? It was this, it was the 7:38:55 communication rule. And this rule, it was by Maharabian, right? We talked about the 7% of the message is the words you say, 30% is how you say it, 55% is what you don't say, the things that come off in your body language. And that was developed by Albert Maharabian at the University of California in Los Angeles, who laid out the concept in his book in the 1971 message, Silent Messages, book published 1971. So that's what happened there. So they say actions speak louder than words, and in communication. That, my friends, as you learn from this example that I shared with you, it is 100% true. I mean, 100% true. Not 10% true, 100% true. And if it's 100% true, then we need to realize that, okay? And so studies have shown that up to, like I said, the rule is 7:38:55. 93% of all communication is nonverbal, okay? So we're talking about the message and how it's relayed, but 93% of all communication, which is a whole different, let's say, metric, that's the amount of communication that's nonverbal, that doesn't have any voice or message beside it to give any other guidance. So that's very important, guys. This includes your facial expressions, your gestures, your posture, and your tone of voice. A simple glance, crossed arms, or sarcastic tone can completely, after the meaning, alter it. And if you say, I'm fine, but your body is tense and you have a tone that's sharp, the message won't land as sincere. Learning to control aligning your intent with your delivery. Always make sure your nonverbal signals reinforce what you're trying to communicate. Number six, guys, tools for confirming understanding. This is a real big one. Tools for understanding. It's something that everyone, I think, needs to know, but many people don't know because they are too much in a rush. So, checking for understanding is a skill that keeps conversations healthy and productive. Whether you're leading a team or having a heart to heart with a friend, using phrases like, so what I'm hearing is, or let me make sure I got this right, just to be sure I understand you better. You can also use tools like shared notes, whiteboards, or even quick email summaries after meetings to ensure everyone's aligned in virtual conversations. Reiterating key takeaways in the chat or sending a recap message after the call can eliminate confusion and enhance accountability. Confirmation isn't just a courtesy, it's a leadership move. And I think that's important regardless of whether your team is small, whether it's a one on one, or whether it's very vast. You've got to understand what this means. And if you don't know how to communicate, well, you can, I'd like to say, and I've said this before, you cannot not communicate. Okay. By choosing to not say anything or not do anything, just by doing that, you cannot not communicate. Right. That's probably the biggest thing that I can share with everyone. You cannot not communicate. All right. You cannot not communicate. And that's important. Right. That's important. Number seven, the role of emotional intelligence. The role of emotional intelligence. This is one that flusters a lot of people. All right. A lot of people. And you might be saying, John, how, why, like what's going on? And I think it comes down to a few things. So let me try to summarize this in the best way that I can. Emotional intelligence is what allows you to manage your emotions and understand the emotions of others. When you're emotionally intelligent, you're more likely to notice when someone is frustrated, confused, or disengaged. Even if they don't say it outright, an emotional intelligent quotient helps you navigate sensitive topics with empathy and patience, both of which are critical in preventing misunderstandings. It also helps you stay calm and curious instead of reactive when communication breaks down. The more emotionally aware you are, the easier it becomes to recognize when something else isn't adding up correctly. And course correct before things go sideways, just like you do in your GPS system, right? Hopefully you listen to it and you course correct when things are going the wrong way, right? I think that's something that is very powerful, but I also think a lot of people miss this concept, right? They miss this concept because they're too busy focused on something else. And that something else might actually derail the conversation and also, let's say, possibly obliterate the trust that exists. Number eight, steps to recover from a misunderstanding. Despite your best efforts, misunderstandings will still happen from time to time, and that's okay. What really matters is how you respond. Start with acknowledgement. I think we might have misunderstood each other, or I think there was a misunderstanding here. Follow it up with openness. Can we talk this through once again? Can we start over? Talking this through and taking responsibility, even partially, shows maturity and fosters mutual respect. Avoid blaming or defensiveness, these only escalate tension. Instead, stay calm, own your part, and recommit to your clear communication. When handled well, misunderstandings can actually strengthen relationships because they show both parties that we're willing to work together, even through challenges that pop up. And I think that's something that a lot of people just don't do today, right? And I think they don't do it because they feel that it's, I'm going to say beneath them, which is really terrible. Number nine, guys. Ready for number nine? Dangers of assumptions. Dangers of assumptions. Dangers of assumptions. And I think that's something important. And so when we think about this for just a moment, okay, it's important to know this, okay? Assumptions are like invisible traps. They feel safe in the moment, but they're often based on incomplete or inaccurate information. You might assume someone knows what you mean, remembers what you said last week, or shares your values or priorities. But without confirmation, you're setting yourself up for disappointment in leadership and relationships alike. Assuming this, you can lead um, to some problems with unmet expectations and hurt feelings and necessary tensions that are not really pleasant. Combat this by trading assumptions for curiosity. Say things like, I want to check in, or I just want to be sure that I understand you. These phrases create space for clarity and connection. Number 10, guys, the last point: benefits of clear, direct communication. Now, it's not something that just sounds uh, nice. It's something that I believe will hopefully get you to be a much better communicator. All right, a much better communicator. I think that's a very very important point. All right, so let's kick into what this is about. Clarity is kind. When you communicate clearly and directly, you save time, reduce stress, and create stronger relationships. People know where they stand, what's expected, and how to move forward. Clear communication empowers teams to take action and builds a culture of trust. It doesn't mean being blunt or cold, it means choosing your words carefully, listening with intent, and speaking with purpose. Whether you're setting expectations at work, resolving a conflict, or expressing your feelings in a relationship, clarity builds bridges instead of walls. So, my question for everyone here tonight: wouldn't you rather build a bridge than put up a wall? See, it's not about an ego thing, guys. It's about how we can collaborate. Okay? How we can collaborate. How we can collaborate. And if we collaborate in a certain way, then I think you will feel a certain way as well, right? But it's got to be done with integrity. Okay. It's got to be done with integrity. I think that's very, very important. Um, does that make sense, everybody? Yes, no? I'm hoping. All right. But again, I think if you can understand some things, then maybe your communication with others might just be a little bit better, right? And if you understand how things work, right? How things work, then things can be a lot easier, right? So, you know how I normally wrap up my sessions by now, because I've been doing this for quite a while, is I kind of recollect on some personal stories in my life, right? So I come up with, I come up um, with basically a personal story for each point. So it drives it home and makes it understandable and relatable. Does that make sense, everyone? I hope so. But I think a lot of people don't get it. They want to rush through everything. Why? Because they think that's just the way, right? And that why is something that most people won't realize for a very, very long time. All right. That why is something that won't be around for a very long time because it gets people tripped up. All right. So let me see if I can help drive this home a little better and give you some of my personal stories. All right. So, number one is the cause of misunderstandings. Several years back, I was collaborating with a colleague on a presentation. I said, let's meet Thursday to finalize everything. Thinking of the afternoon, he assumed I meant the morning. We both showed up at different times, frustrated and confused. That simple lack of clarity was a problem. So, whenever I set a meeting with people, I always confirm the time. This was something that happened way back in undergrad school when we were working on something because he just assumed that I was going to meet at that time. So don't assume anything. Number two, guys, how the brain fills in gaps because it will fill in gaps. I think that's important for everyone to understand. I'm hoping you'll understand what it means. And if you understand, then maybe this will become just a little bit easier to follow. So, how does the brain fill in gaps? So, I once got a short one line email from a client that said, let's talk. No context, no punctuation. I immediately panicked, assuming something was wrong. When we finally spoke, they just wanted to share basically some good news. That moment reminded me how our brain tends to fill in gaps with worst case scenarios, especially when we lack full information. Okay. I think that's a very, very important things. Um, and I think that's something a lot of people, does that make sense to everybody? I think maybe this will make some sense to you. So don't just fill in the words, right? Don't do an ad lib fill in with things. Don't panic. And so that moment reminded me how our brain tends to fill in blanks with the worst case scenarios, especially when we lack the full information. Just get the facts first, guys. Number three, importance of clarification. Importance of clarification. It's really very, very important to understand what clarification is and, you know, how it should work. Don't be scared, okay? Get the facts. Number three, importance of clarifying. During a group project, one team member kept mentioning the report without specifying which one. Instead of asking for clarification, we all worked on different documents. It was a complete mess. Which report are you referring to? What section? What chapter? See what I mean? That was a big problem. Number four, active listening techniques. I was once in a leadership training where we practiced repeating back what someone said before responding. I tried it at home with a friend of mine that night, and to my surprise, they felt truly heard and appreciated. That one shift, listening to understand rather than to reply, completely changed how we communicate. And I communicated. Number five, nonverbal. At a networking event, I introduced myself to someone who gave me a tight lipped smile and avoided eye contact. I assumed they weren't interested in talking. Later, I found out they were just painfully shy. It was a reminder that reading nonverbal cues matters, but they aren't always accurate. Context is everything. Number six, tools for confirming and understanding. While training a new intern, I asked if he understood the task, and he nodded. Hours later, it was clear he had no clue, as he was doing something totally different. I learned to ask, can you walk me through what you're doing or what you're going to do? It changed everything. He felt more confident, and I felt assured that he was actually going to be on the right track and not waste company time and resources. Number seven, role of emotional intelligence. In a high pressure meeting, a coworker snapped at me. Instead of reacting, I paused and calmly said, "It seems like you're having a rough day. Want to talk later?" He thanked me for not escalating things. That moment showed me how turning and understanding that we can tune into emotions, ours and others, can de escalate and create connections and build long lasting bonds. Number eight, Steps to recover from a misunderstanding. I once sent an email I thought was clear, but the recipient felt I was abrupt and rude. I followed up with a phone call to apologize and clarify my tone. That call not only fixed the situation, but built trust. Owning a mistake and making things right turned a misunderstanding into a stronger relationship. Number nine, dangers of assumption. At a family gathering, I assumed my cousin didn't want to talk because he was being quiet. Later, I found out he was going through a tough time and appreciated just sitting beside someone. That experience reminded me that assuming is risky. Compassion and curiosity go a lot further and will start to build priceless bonds of trust. Benefits of clear, direct communication. When I began managing my own team many, many years ago, I shifted from vague instructions like, get this done soon, to please have this completed by Friday at 2 p.m. Productivity soared and stress levels dropped. That shift to clear, direct communication made a world of difference for me and the team. Wow, guys, that's a nutshell tonight, right? That's a big, big nutshell. A shell that I think a lot of people don't realize is possible. All right. Does that make sense, everybody? Yes, no? I think sometimes we get into this situation that we don't know why, right? We don't know why. And maybe that means that you understand something or you don't, right? Maybe. But if you don't, then maybe it can get confusing. And that confusion can cause more challenges. And if you're wondering, like I am, how do you start a communication when somebody else, like, what do you do? And this is a great question. What do you do when your client is blaming you and it is their fault? What do you do about that? Well, you stay calm. You don't take it personally. Acknowledge their frustration. You present the facts, not accusations. You offer solutions, not blame. You document everything. You reflect. Is the client a good fit or not? And realize it's not personal. It's just business, everyone. So I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your evening. I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. Do check out believemeachieve.com for more of my amazing, inspiring creations.